Hello and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com.
Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalise your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code Oxygenaddict.
We're also brought to you by foodsell.co.uk.
The next generation of top tube nutritional carriers for your bike, designed to allow endurance triathletes and cyclists to carry enough food and gels while allowing easy access. Use the code FREEPOST for free delivery worldwide. Check it out at foodsell.co.uk.
And we're also brought to you by Tribe.
National, Rob? Natural.
I think we mean natural. National and natural.
Natural sports nutrition delivered direct to you. Try a trial pack of 6 delicious energy bars, protein bars and protein shakes for just £1, including postage and packaging. Head to wearetribe.co/oxygenaddict and use the code TRIBE Oxygenaddict.
Awesome stuff. So thanks very much to our sponsors and a welcome to the show. Boy, oh boy, do we have a stonker in store for you today, Hals. I'm gonna let you tell us who's coming up today.
Well, we'll have a little trail right now.
At the moment, I think there are plans to go longer after Tokyo, maybe going to 70.3, maybe Ironman, but at the moment that seems a long, long way.
There you go, Rob. That is the voice of Jonny Brownlee, who you will hear a little bit more from later on.
Sounds like you've had an exciting weekend. You've been up and you've had the old microphone out in people's faces, haven't you?
I did have the microphone out, yes. So I went to the National Endurance Centre in Leeds, and they were doing a workshop yesterday, and I went along, and it was really, really, really good. So it was a load of different workshops. There was sort of strength and conditioning, there was nutrition, there were Q&As with Jonny Brownlee did a Q&A, Laura Waitman as well, the 1500, 5,000 metre athlete. She was doing a Q&A because she's based up there. There was lunch. There was physio workshops as well. So we had a workshop with Alison Rose, who is like top physio for the likes of Jess Ennis and Dame Kelly Holmes as well. She worked with both of those. She's worked with the Brownies.
Nice.
So we were doing like drills and things like that. Honestly, it was absolutely
sounds like
brilliant.
It was super. Those all over sort of coaching days and coaching weekends where you get to pick the brains of the best people out there. It's amazing, isn't it, that you get to sort of get all those little bits of information from people who've worked with the best athletes in the world. I remember doing them in the early days of my coaching career and thinking, wow, this is amazing. You've rubbed Jonny Brownlee's hamstrings or whatever. You know what I mean? You know what you're talking about.
It's just, you know that they are the best in their field.
Yeah, good
and
stuff.
That's pretty incredible. And what was pretty special about this is that the National Endurance Centre is a project, and Dr Andi Drake, who we will hear from a bit later on, and Malcolm Brown are directors of it.
Okay.
And the idea is that they want to bring together knowledge, share knowledge, and they want to support athletes as well, and up-and-coming athletes. So everyone there yesterday, I think there were about more or less sort of 30 people, and it was £30 for the day. £15 went to an athlete, and £15 went to the hiring of the facilities that they used at Leeds Beckett University.
Okay.
So midway through the afternoon, they presented Beth Potter with a cheque for £300 for her, which was basically from the, I guess, like the ticket
proceeds
sales.
of the day.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so the likes of Alison Rose and Dane Mitchell, who did the strength and conditioning, and Louise Sutton, who again we'll hear from, talking about nutrition, like they all did it from the goodness of their own heart. They got a bottle of wine for it, and it just meant that it really can benefit so many other people. So yeah, it was a really good day, and I think they will be doing more workshops. So if you do get to go onto one of these, improving performance in endurance sport or something similar, then get on it and go and learn from the best and help the likes
worth
of
getting
Beth
to,
also.
hey?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice stuff. Well, if any more of those come along, then we'll get it out on the podcast, and maybe we can help some people out to get down to something cool like that. Hey,
definitely.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we'll look forward to those interviews coming up later on then. So we've had some racing going on, Hells. I get excited around this time of year because now it's like the races are kicking off every week and there's all kinds of things going on around the world, aren't there? So we'll kick off with a little bit of news and racing from around the world, sponsored by precisionhydration.com. If you guys haven't used our promotional code yet, get on it. You can get a free tube or box of Precision Hydration worth $9.99 using the code Oxygenaddict. The cool thing about Precision Hydration is they make electrolytes in different strengths. So you can get like the normal strength electrolytes, which you might find in a bottle of commercially available electrolyte drink, all the way through to 1,500 milligrams worth of electrolytes in one drink, which is what really sweaty, salty sweaters like me need. So if you're not sure if you're somewhere on the normal spectrum or one of the outliers, it can be a really key part of putting together your long course, or in fact any distance triathlon performance. You can take their online sweat test on the website. That'll give you a guide as to whether you are particularly salty or particularly sweaty. And if you are, you can then tailor that by adding in one of they make different strengths of these sachets that you just add into your drink. And the really cool thing is they don't have that really horrible salty taste. So even the 1,500 milligrams, which is like 6 times stronger than Gatorade or whatever, it doesn't taste salty at all because of the way they formulate it. So if you suffer from cramps, or even if you've in the heat, you've been feeling really sick and you've got like suspected hyponatremia, these guys can be part of fixing the puzzle for you. Go and check it out at precisionhydration.com. Okay, so some racing from around the world this weekend. We had Challenge Melbourne go on, didn't we, down in the Southern Hemisphere, where we had wins for Mike Phillips, who was on the show a couple of weeks back, and Amelia Watkinson. I think that must be Mike wrapping up his season, because he was saying in an interview he was pretty much done for the year when we spoke to him after Ironman New Zealand, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But he put a swift half marathon together, Rob, yesterday. He did a 1:10.
Yeah, that is just... It's incredible, isn't it, how half marathon performances have moved forward even over the last year. It's becoming like quite common to see these numbers in the very low 110s now, whereas it used to be more likely they were going to be in the high 110x's. So that's an astonishingly quick run, isn't it? Like 3 or 4 minutes faster than the next fastest person. Yeah,
that's right. So yeah, Mike Phillips finishing the season on a high with 3:42, ahead of David Mainwaring and then Matt Burton. And yeah, Amelia Watkinson, Rob, took the win basically on the run. She did a 1:18, finishing ahead of Annabelle Luxford
Speedy.
and Radka Karlfeldt.
Nice. And I noticed down in 8th position there, Pete Jacobs getting another marker back on the board. Previous Kona winner who's had a huge amount of health problems over the recent years, but he put together a 1:12 run to close as well. So I think his bike was quite up to where he might have hoped it would be, but to see him close with a 1:12 is really positive. I'd love to see him get back to racing at the highest levels again. All right, we also had down in Peru, we had the 70.3 Peru.
Yep, we did. Lucy Gossage was actually on the start line for this one, Rob.
Yes, I saw that. She's travelling the world and racing where she fancies still, isn't she?
She's got a couple of weeks left before she goes back to work, starts her consultant's job. So, I think the original plan was to go to China. But
okay.
Yeah, but then I don't think that quite came off. So I think, Peru, well, I'll go and do a 70.3 on my way and then go and do some travelling afterwards. So
nice.
She still managed to put together a really swift... Yeah, really swift race to finish 4th, and she did say afterwards, I really don't think she was expecting to finish much higher. I think she actually said that's higher than I had expected. So good work. It was won by Lauren Goss in 4:05. Nice, pretty much 10-minute cushion ahead of Kinsey Lane and then Cecilia Davis-Hayes.
Full on win, that, isn't it?
Yeah, really. She ran 7 minutes faster than anyone else. The men's race was won by Vicente Hernandez ahead of Andy Potts and Kevin Collington.
Oh, good to see Kevin Collington getting back onto the podium there as well. That was a nice swift run from him as well, the 1:15. Nice work, Kevin. I would give a shout out to him because when we did that charity draw a few years back, I remember Kevin sending a massive bundle of stuff through for the charity draw that cost him a fortune to post from America. And he was like, no, it's cool. I'll pay for it for you, mate. Don't worry. It's all for a good cause. So nice work, Kevin. Good guy. He's one of the good guys, Hells.
He's one of the good guys. Then there was another 70.3 over in China, in Leeds, and Rob. We've mentioned him a few times over the past couple of weeks. Now, I thought he was 46, but maybe he is still 45. I'm not totally convinced.
Just turning, isn't he? Just turning 46, apparently.
So we're talking about Crowe, who, wow, he got the win out there. He did a 1:13 run, Rob.
Yeah. So I think I read on Slow Twitch it's his first win for a couple of years. I think they hadn't quite fact-checked that yet, but they call him Alexander the Great, and I really like that. So he takes a win in 3:48. You could see the former, I think, multiple Kona winner, multiple 70.3 world champs winner take that out at 46. He's clearly enjoying his racing still, isn't he? So that's awesome. Ahead of the fantastically titled Ivan Kalashnikov in second from Russia, and Paul Schuster of Germany in third.
And then Agnieszka Józek of Poland took the win in 4:15 ahead of Kelsey Withrow and Laura Dennis.
Some good racing. It's good when these events kick off, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Got some good fun stuff going on, and the next big thing on my radar is Ironman Texas in a couple of weeks' time. I think that's the sort of the North American Championship, super fast course, stacked field, loads of people racing, and yeah, let's hope that the weather is. We mentioned last week, didn't we, that the weather at the 70.3 Texas had been pretty horrendous, but I didn't realise how hideous it had been until I saw the photos and video clips later on in the day that people had posted of, like, I don't know whether it was technically a hurricane that had blown through or a really strong storm, but it was like blowing the gantries over and the clock blowing down off the finishing thing. It looked unbelievable, didn't it? Yeah,
well, it's like the Masters this weekend had to start really early on the final day, didn't they? Because of tornadoes. You just don't know, really. Can't really predict.
It's hard for us to know, isn't it, being in the UK, not really ever getting weather like that apart from the isolated thing. When it rolls through 2 or 3 or 4 times a year or whatever, it must be incredibly difficult to plan around that, mustn't it? So fingers crossed for Texas going through really well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Kimberly Morrison's going to be racing there.
Yeah.
Sam Proctor is going to be doing his first Ironman out there as well. I spoke to him recently. We'll be playing that interview out at some point very soon. That'll come out probably timed around the time of Ironman Texas, actually. I know. That should be good. Perfect timing. Well done, Health. It's almost like we planned it, but not quite. No, there was planning in that. Absolutely. All right, so let's jump in. Let's do our interview of the week. You've got all kinds of exciting people for us to talk to, Hells. Interview of the week is brought to us by foodcell.co.uk. Now remember, Foodcell are super duper handily accessible top tube nutritional carrier. The key thing of this is, although it fits much more stuff in than your average top tube carrier, it's hardly any bigger physically, but inside it's like a TARDIS. So you can get 4 of those really big, fat, juicy gels in, or 2 massive pieces of flapjack. And the key thing is you can open it and close it with one hand as you're riding, because it's no good having a top tube carrier that you can't actually get stuff into or out of. So it's been really well designed by a doctor and an Ironman athlete, Mark, here in the UK. So great UK-based company as well to support. And they are partners with the Outlaw series. So if you buy yourself one of these food cells before the 1st of May, you can be entered into a free draw to win an entry for the Outlaw Nottingham full distance race, which is taking place on the 28th of July. So purchase by the 1st of May. Tick the box at the checkout when you buy your food cell. There's some legal terms and conditions there around winning this entry, so make sure you read that as well. But you can win a free entry into the Outlaw Nottingham full distance race as well. Check it out at foodcell.co.uk and use the code FREEPOST to get free delivery worldwide as well. So again, super duper saving if you're outside of the UK. All right, Hells, let's do this week's montaged interview of the week, including the legendary Jonny Brownlee.
Jonny, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. My training's all gone well the last few months, and I'm looking forward to racing again. I'm racing in Bermuda in about 2 weeks' time, so finally, touch wood, it's all gone quite well for a while.
Was last year testing really mentally?
Yeah, it was mentally testing. Firstly, because I was struggling with an injury for the whole year. I had a bit of a hamstring problem the whole year that held me back. A lot of it was my own doing. I made a lot of mistakes getting ready for the Commonwealth Games in April time. I probably pushed it a bit too hard, got injured in January. And then those January, February, March months are the important months where you lay the foundations for the rest of the year. And I missed all of that training, came back too quick, got injured again, and then struggled for the rest of the year. It's one of those years I'd like to put behind me, but it was mentally tough more than anything because I was on the start line most times, worrying about an injury, worrying about getting back to the hotel afterwards, wanting it all to be done rather than actually wanting to race because of my injury. And for someone who loves racing, that was quite tough to take.
I was going to say, you've been talking here so much about the enjoyment, and did that just go last year?
Not completely. I still enjoy my training, but it definitely took enjoyment away from it when you're worrying about something. Every training session is, how much is it going to hurt? Is it going to hurt? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be better than yesterday? Worse than yesterday? And I don't enjoy training when it's like that. I enjoy training when I've got no worries and you're riding through the dales with your mates and enjoying it. And it didn't really happen last year.
You have been sat here next to Malcolm, and you can sort of see this. There's such a nice relationship between the two of you. What would you say that you've learned most from him?
Good question. I've learnt loads of things over my career from Malcolm. I think consistency from him, and also about not putting too much pressure on individual sessions. I think he was very wise in the way that he handled us. In the fact that when it was a session he wanted us to take it a little bit easier, he would take us to a grass field where you couldn't run too fast, and I didn't realise that at the time, and to not get carried away or dwell on sessions that maybe aren't quite as good as you want them to be, and just realise that there's a bigger picture going on, and you are fit, and to enjoy training with a good group. And he was always very wise going into races to tell me when I was fit. I knew that when Malk told me that I was fit, then I was fit and I was going to compete well, and it was great to have something like that through the majority of my sporting career. And at the same time, he obviously brought in all the smaller things, but have been equally important. But of running drills, gym, all these extra things as a young triathlete I'd never thought of. At the same time as he kept the enjoyment of the sport and never stopped us enjoying it, and realised that that's why he did it. So if he was going to tell us not to ride a bike or not do a ride with our mates on a Sunday, that was not going to happen. So he was very good at controlling what we wanted to do and what we should be doing.
Do you ever pick his brain still now?
Yes, I do. Yeah, there's times that I can do or have done, but also that's up to Mitch now. So we've got a very nice legacy in the coaching now. So as Malt moved on, Ian Mitchell's now taking the mantle of the coaching, and he's very the same philosophy of Malt. He was coached by Malk for even longer than I was, but probably 20-25 years now, and he regularly meets Malk for coffee and breakfast, and I might not see that side of it, but that legacy is still continued. I think that's very, very important because the Leeds Triathlon Centre has been incredibly successful because of those personalities, and we need to keep that philosophy going.
Tokyo is obviously going to be the goal. What are your thoughts ahead of Tokyo at the moment?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully being there. I'm looking forward to testing myself again. It's a new challenge in that the heat is a new challenge. It's new challenges, there's new athletes coming through, and also the relay is a new challenge. So it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to having a good year this year, and I'm not really worrying so much at the moment about Tokyo this, Tokyo that. I just want to get myself back to being fit and then if I'm fit, it'll look after itself.
Then after Tokyo, obviously we're not kind of quite at Tokyo yet, plans to go longer?
At the moment, I think there are plans to go longer after Tokyo, maybe going to 70.3, maybe Ironman, but at the moment that seems a long, long way. But I'll see some of those things that, do I need a new challenge by then, or if I have a great year this year, next year, do I think, maybe I can still got more to give an Olympic distance? But But I think if I'm ready for a new challenge by then, I'll definitely go on to do longer stuff. I think the longer stuff, it seems very attractive now, in the fact that it's new, it's exciting. There's, you change your training differently, you mess around with time trial bikes and aerodynamics, and at the moment, that kind of new side of the sport is attractive to me.
And as well, having Ali stepped up to 70.3, does that influence you a little bit too?
Yes, it does, definitely. Yeah. I've spent a lot of my career racing with Alistair and travelling around the world with him, and also training with him. And at the moment, although we still do 95% of our sessions together, seeing Alistair going long and doing the different training, again, it's quite attractive. He was on his time trial bike this morning, and a lot of me goes, that's quite exciting. Because it's new, but I'm also very conscious that as human beings, we're always grass is greener. So, like I say, we'll have to wait and see. As I keep saying, if I'm ready for a new challenge by then, I'll take the new challenge.
And I'm going to let you go in a second, because what are you about to go and do?
I'm about to go meet Alistair for a long run, which is it's a brilliant thing, the fact we're doing long runs together, because again, we haven't been able to do that for a year, and the last couple of weeks we have been in long runs together. We've both been healthy, which is a massive positive.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So I'm sat between pretty much two, I'd say, British triathlon legends in terms of coaching. First of all, Jack Maitland, and then Malcolm Brown as well. Jack, do you often spend Sundays here at the university?
Well, not so often, to be honest. I mean, Sunday is probably one of the few days I wasn't here when I was based here coaching. Just about every other day of the week I was here.
Malcolm, you're now retired, so how's retirement going?
Retirement's fine. I had a sabbatical last year from most things, actually. My health wasn't so good. But I'm climbing back into the game, and I'm enjoying life.
Let's go straight away. Tokyo 2020. What are your thoughts about the British team that might be going?
Well, I'm not so involved with the British team now because I've stepped back from my role at Leeds Triathlon Centre, and I'm only coaching the one sort of elite athlete, and that's Beth Potter. So I guess my view of how Britain might do is a little bit coloured by that, and I think Tokyo is going to be a challenge definitely for the British team as it is for everyone.
That's a very diplomatic answer, Jack. Malcolm, do you I know again you sort of step back as well, I know that, but London 2012, does that still seem like it was almost yesterday?
Yes and no, because there's been a lot of water under the bridge since London, and in some ways going to Rio was harder, I think, for the athletes, for obvious reasons. It wasn't round the corner, but also because of expectation levels were high, for those athletes, and it's a great tribute to them that they produced what they produced on the day.
Do you think that there will be as many British medals in Tokyo?
Well, I would doubt if there were ever as many medals for any nation as there were for Britain at an Olympic Games. So it would be something sensational to reproduce that. But we've certainly got, from what I can see, we've got athletes who can cope with a variety of different race situations. If I was still within the system, coaching athletes, I'd be optimistic.
How different is it for you working with just one athlete now, one elite athlete, Jack?
Well, things are very different. I'm working with other athletes beyond just Beth. So I'm working with athletes at different levels of triathlon and in different countries as well. So I'm busy, but in a different sort of way. So it is a completely different type of working. When I was here, I was running the centre alongside Malcolm, and I was every day coaching a squad of elite athletes. So that is different to what I'm doing now.
Do you miss it at all, or are you enjoying the different challenge that comes with what you are up to now?
I'm definitely enjoying the change. I think that's true. I was sort of involved with the Leeds Triathlon Centre for about 16 years, And as Malcolm alluded to there, going to the Olympics is quite a stressful situation for the athletes, and of course for all the coaches and people that are around them as well. There are a lot of pressures. So it's been quite nice to set back and be able to, really coach exactly as I want to coach, and that's definitely been a positive.
Malcolm, just in the room about 10 minutes ago, we're going to embarrass Jack big time now, but you described him as the best triathlon coach in the world, didn't you?
Yes, I think, we're in Olympic triathlon. If you take a couple of young lads to the medals that Jack did in London Olympics, and then keep alongside those men, because they changed from young lads to men, and then add in, the first ever female medalists with Vicky Holland. The evidence is there. I don't think it's disputable. It's just there. So, because Jack doesn't want to make a fuss about what he's done, I think his value can be underestimated to triathlon in Britain, but also triathlon, outside of Britain. I definitely think Jack's got. I'd be interested to know who's better.
Do you have any thoughts, Jack, on it?
Well, I don't really look at it like that, as you might expect. I just did the best job I could do, and was very fortunate to have a lot of good opportunities and some fantastic athletes and some fantastic collaborators, Malcolm not least, but also support of various people and institutions. So, but it is a bit of a funny one, because we did really build something in Leeds that was undoubtedly successful, and sometimes you look at it and think it was difficult, but it wasn't that difficult. Why do other places and people not manage to do the same? And then it's when you unpick that you sort of start to realise what the really important things were.
What would you say that you learned the most about yourself as a coach throughout that journey? Obviously you're still learning, but throughout that working.
I think the thing that I probably learned most was that you as a coach are there to get the best out of the people that you're working with, but most of what that is comes from within them. So your job as a coach is to get the best out of them, and it's not to dictate stuff to them. It's to actually find a way of getting the best out of those people.
And I guess part of it is that everyone is totally different and respond in different ways, don't they? As athletes, in teaching and in learning, everyone's different.
Yeah, that's right. It's working that thing about individual, because the individual is super important, but also that there are commonalities, that are things that are absolutely essential or are very important, which need to be applied across the board and held to. You need to stick to those sort of principles. You need to know what those principles are, but then you need to stick to them. And that was where working with Malcolm worked really well for us, because it turned out that we had very similar principles and philosophies about how to do things, and so we could work together well.
Malcolm, I remember you mentioning the tree that everyone had got for you. Are you still there? Still looking at it? Still fond memories?
Yes, I don't go there too often, because I don't want it. It's right next to the Brownlee building, which is a British Triathlon Centre, and I don't want to be the sort of guy who sort of comes along and asks what's happening. But no, it's still there, and my role now really. I advise a couple of coaches, Ian Mitchell and Rhys Davey down at Bath, on a mentoring basis, and a couple in athletics as well. So I see if I have got a role at all, it's on a voluntary basis, and it's just trying to help young coaches who are in the performance arena cope with the strains and stresses of that role. So that's what I do at the moment. But I try to keep out the way of appearing to be looking over the shoulder of anybody.
And Jack, do you still sort of dip in a little bit, or do you find it easy to kind of take a little bit more of a step back?
Yeah, I'm very probably similar to Malcolm there, is that I've stepped away, and so therefore it's I don't get too involved. As I said, I'm coaching Beth, so she's still training within the Leeds Triathlon Centre, so I have a connection through her, but that is mostly it.
Did you ever imagine that it would grow to be what it has become?
Well, probably not in its entirety, but I think that when we did start, quite a long time ago in the 2001, 2002, that sort of time, we always had an ambition to be successful and to be successful at Olympic level. So possibly over optimistically initially, but we more or less got to where we hoped we would.
And Brownlee for gold in Tokyo?
Well, I very much hope so, yeah.
My name is Louise Sutton. I'm Head of Sport and Exercise Nutrition at Leeds Beckett University. I'm also a registered sport and exercise nutrition practitioner. I think from my perspective, nutrition should be kind of quite simple and straightforward. Unfortunately, I guess with the internet as a source of information, it can be quite a confusing field for people to, understand and maybe implement in their day-to-day practice. So I would suggest for those engaged in, a significant amount of training, particularly if they're training for, endurance sport, triathlons, running, etc. If they're training on a regular basis, maybe seeking out the support of a registered practitioner, and they can do that through looking at the Sport and Exercise Nutrition register.
And you said there about if you're training, a lot. Again, lots of people listening to this, what kind of counts as a lot? Like, I never know, and I'm running or doing something most days, probably a rest day once a week, but I always think, is that a lot? I don't know.
Okay, so I guess, the sedentary person probably does nothing, okay? So that's somebody who probably has a job where they're very inactive, maybe desk-bound, and don't really do any kind of sort of physical activity in their kind of day-to-day life or within their recreation time. And I guess really then for those involved in exercise and training, somebody might be classed as kind of light if they're doing maybe less than sort of 60 minutes a day. They might be classed as moderate if they're doing somewhere between an hour and 2 hours of activity a day. And they might be classed as being heavy if they're doing some intense training for somewhere between, say, 1 to 3 hours a day, and extremely heavy if they're getting up to somewhere between sort of 4 to 5 hours of kind of training a day.
And I guess when you first get into triathlon or running, you are doing more than you ever were. So then do you need to change your diet accordingly?
I mean, I guess from a very common sense sort of point of view, if you're doing more, yes, you will need to eat more. I guess obviously that's premised on your kind of, weight and body composition and any goals you might have around that. A lot of recreational athletes get into running and in other types of endurance exercise to lose weight. And I guess when they start running or cycling, for example, that weight loss starts to come for them. And that might be fine in the initial stages. But then if you're trying to keep pushing your training whilst you're maybe losing weight and you've hit a weight that you want to be at, you've then got to start putting more energy in to fuel the training that you're doing. And you'll also need to put more energy in the harder the training you're doing and the longer you're doing it for.
So on let's say a normal week, I might have a really easy run, let's say on a Monday. I might have a tough session on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then let's say a long run at the weekend as well. So how should my week look, I guess?
Yeah. The thing is that your nutrition's not going to be the same every day. So I guess simply thinking about on the days where you're doing your hardest sessions in your training, just trying to add in a little bit more carbohydrate around what you're doing, whether that's a little bit more before or a little bit more after. And some of that could be, that it's your starchy foods that you're having around your main meal times, your bread, your pasta, your rice, those types of foods. It may well be when you have done things a little bit more intense and you want to start or kickstart your recovery process immediately after exercise or hard sessions, you might want to try taking in carbohydrate in a more simple form. So that might be something that's more sugary, it might be a sugary based drink. Again, if it's been particularly intense, you might want to add in a little bit of extra protein with that as well to help kind of your recovery and your tissue building kind of after your exercise. So having something that has got protein and carbohydrate combined. Milk is a fantastic kind of immediate recovery type food as well. And then I guess on those days where you have trained more intensely, just making sure that maybe you've got your next meal in after that hard session within a couple of hours after doing that immediate top-up nutrition should help.
You mentioned a lovely word there, carbohydrates. There's so much information out there that high fat, low carb, and it's just so confusing for the age group athlete. Should we all be going high fat, low carb?
No, I don't think so. I think even for the general population, they should still get the most of their energy intake from carbohydrate and healthy kind of carbohydrate sources that contribute other nutrition to the diet, micronutrients and fibre, for example. So I think the whole low carb debate is probably an unhealthy debate to be having in terms of trying to fuel training appropriately. And obviously, yes, there are some of our elite level athletes who will train in a carbohydrate depleted state, and that's to kind of switch on particular kind of metabolic pathways and to kind of train those. But that doesn't mean that they're in energy deficit or necessarily carbohydrate deficit for the whole of that day. That's being very targeted around nutritional preparation for particular training sessions where we're trying to achieve a particular kind of adaptation. And I think that maybe those from the kind of general athletic kind of population may well find themselves being underfueled by maybe adopting some of those approaches.
And similarly, would that be similar with sort of fasted training in the morning? Let's say I go to the swimming pool, my alarm goes off, I tend to get up and I go straight to the pool. I don't often have time early morning to get something into me, but then I do make sure that I eat pretty quickly afterwards. Is that okay?
Yes, so I think, yes, if you're training in a fasted state, then you need to make sure that you are recovering some of that energy that you've additionally used up during the sessions that you've done immediately after kind of your training session. So like I've said, you wouldn't want to be in energy deficit, particularly if you don't need to lose weight for the rest of that day. So topping up your nutritional status immediately after would be something to do, yes.
Tips on nutrition then for someone who might be doing their first sprint or Olympic distance triathlon this season. What should they be looking at consuming?
Yeah, I think just getting a sensible and regular pattern of kind of eating around your training. I guess most people will probably think about the race day nutrition and thinking about what they're going to do specifically on race day, whether that's kind of carb load the day before, take on board extra fluid, any kind of gels or things they might want to use around that. But actually, if nutrition's going to have a biggest impact on their performance in their first kind of event or race, it's actually what they do day to day that's going to have an impact on that around supporting their training, so optimally recovering after their training sessions. So I think it's just maybe being a little bit more organised around their day-to-day nutrition is probably going to have a bigger impact on their race day performance than maybe any very structured or tailored kind of plans around race day.
Yeah, and when the duration increases, so half Ironman, what advice would you have for those athletes?
Eat more. I mean, it's as simple as that. I know I probably keep saying very sort of common sense and straightforward things. I think I see a lot of athletes who probably try and do more and kind of underfuel themselves in the process. So I think it's just trying to be in tune with what their kind of training demands are and try and match their intake to their I guess, training profile. So it's as simple as on the days you're training hardest and for longer, eating more, and obviously maybe on the days where you're not doing so much, you can eat a little bit less. I would always say though, on a rest day, try and use any rest days if people have rest days to kind of ensure good quality of kind of food intake and maybe kind of catch up on some of the nutrition that might not have been consumed whilst they've kind of had busier days or more intense training days earlier on in a week.
So can you give a practice? So I'm on a rest day today.
Yeah.
So practical example then today for me.
Yeah, so today for you should just be kind of eating around sort of general healthy eating principles, making sure you're getting your at least 5 servings of fruits and veg in a day, having, at least 3 servings of dairy food in your day, still basing your meals around your carbohydrate foods to ensure you're topping up your muscle glycogen stores. I would say as well, having 2 good quality kind of protein sources in your meals. Those will probably be around your kind of main meals, and making sure as well that you're staying on top of your hydration. So trying to kind of maybe just stay ahead of thirst is a really sort of kind of practical guide for that. And maybe on your rest days, you need, less eating opportunities in your day. So you probably won't be consuming some of the snacks and carbohydrate-rich snacks that you might do around your training when you are, you've got 1 or 2 kind of sessions that you're trying to fit into your day.
It's funny you should say that, because today already I've probably eaten, or I have consumed less food, definitely, because we've been in different workshops. And you've been occupied. What about athletes who don't eat meat, maybe? And do you have any different advice for them? Okay,
are we talking the vegetarian or are we talking vegan? Because obviously at the moment there is a rising kind of profile of kind of veganism, and I guess athletes can meet all of their needs by following a vegetarian and vegan diet. They just need to be, I guess, better organised around kind of meeting their needs. Obviously, for both, maybe iron intake is something that needs to be paid a little bit more attention to.
And would that be supplements, Louise, or would that be, I don't know, increasing your sort of green veg and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess it can be done without supplementation, so for kind of both increasing intakes of green leafy veg, other kind of pulses within the diet can do that. Some of the fortified breakfast cereals will kind of increase iron intake. Vitamin C intake, in terms of where athletes are trying to follow a vegetarian or vegan diet, they will need some additional vitamin C to help the absorption of the iron from non-heme sources. So again, eating more kind of citrus fruits or things like tomatoes, peppers, kiwi fruit, those sorts of things can help increase vitamin C intake in the diet as well.
Dr Andi Drake, and I'm with Malcolm Brown. I'm Director of the National Endurance Centre Limited in Leeds.
Andy, what's the idea behind the National Endurance Centre?
So myself and Malcolm, we worked in endurance sport and track and field athletics and triathlon for many, many years. We worked together for a long time. We've both been very successful in what we do, myself in athletics and Malcolm in athletics initially, but obviously very famously in triathlon. And much of our work has been sort of linked with, we've been employed by universities and governing bodies, and I guess lots of these things go in cycles, Olympic cycles.
4-year cycles.
Yeah, 4-year cycles, and things chop and change. And I think we just kind of wanted to, whilst we're still actually, and me particularly, I'm immersed in that, working closely with governing bodies, I think we just wanted to kind of sidestep that, because in terms of the success that we've had and the athletes that we've developed takes a lot longer than a 4-year cycle, and so we just wanted to get back to something that was had that longevity, and that just wasn't tied to that. And I guess that in a nutshell, that's what we want to do. And of course, then there's a lot of the people we've worked with, a number of them are on the world class program. I coach athletes who are on the world class program. Fantastic. Access all areas and travel the world and all this sort of thing.
And that's like the likes of Tom Bosworth that you would coach. Race walker, would
that's
you say?
Right. Yeah. But I also coach some athletes who are equally, as a coach, I recognise they're equally talented and as good and are doing all the work. But for whatever reason, they're perhaps not on those kind of programs. It's down to where their performances are at, and so it's sort of putting a layer in that sits sort of below that. So this is not something for kind of lifestyle athletes or something like that. This is for people who are going for it, that we want to support. And perhaps to help them take those steps up to world class, and then we've moved to bring in the next athlete to work with and support. So I think it's just that little helping hand at a sort of critical phase in people's development would be I think that's what we're trying to do.
And the idea about bringing the likes of me here today and hosting workshops, why are you doing that? Why are you sort of opening it up?
Sure. I think a lot of the content from the workshops today we will have done elsewhere with kind of like with national squads or talent programs or the various names that all these things get, and they're often quite sort of ring fenced. So it's you're on this program, so you can come to this day, this camp, and so on and so forth. So in part, it's sort of opening that up because the kind of the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, the running drills led by the physio they're universal to anybody. They'll have an impact. They'll help anybody improve their own performance, whatever they want to achieve. Be that running 10k in an hour. It's the same principles apply, and so we wanted to open that up to everybody, and we felt there was an appetite for that, and I'm sure that there is, and at the same time, by people have paid for this today, but that has then allowed us to it's covered all the costs for the day, of course, or the hiring all the facilities, so on and so forth, but there's some there's money on top of that that's allowed us to write a big fat check and give that to an athlete today, to Beth Potters, and Beth would be somebody who fits into that kind of grey zone, sitting below world class, but we can see that athlete, the potential, that she has. So it's if that can be in some small way start to offer some of that support. So I think hopefully people have got something of value from today and have enjoyed themselves and will come back. And but at the same time they can see that actually what they've done is going to. It's not making us rich yet. That might be part of the plan long term. We would like to, we'd actually like to replace ourselves and look to kind of, create sort of paid coaching opportunities in the future, but in a way that I guess doesn't take from the. If we try and take it directly from the athletes who, if you like, who need our coaching the most, they're probably the ones who are struggling the most financially. So, that's I guess that's some of the idea of putting on stuff for the wider community, at a reasonable cost, so they'll feel it's good value, and then starting to build and create a community, so that a whole lot of people feel that they're actually part of and working, helping support. So they can watch these athletes in the Olympic Games in Tokyo next year and think, well, I went to that workshop with those guys in Leeds, and the money that we raised from that, look, it's helping this athlete who I'm now watching and shouting on the TV. That would be great.
And you said earlier that there was a nice sort of graph, and you said you can get your training right, but actually it's the little added elements, a bit like the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, that actually will make the difference, and that is for anybody.
Yeah, sure. And we, those all the athletes that we work with, those kind of things are kind of essential. They're recurring themes. Ensuring we've got enough energy in the tank to, prepare for training, do the training, the competition, recovery, and so on. being robust so they don't get hurt, so they can keep training consistently, and having good form, which will help things like running economy, for example, as well as keeping you injury free. So all those little things are not actually more training volume, so they're just like being that bit smarter, and then you train that bit more consistently, and then actually performance is elevated. So it's trying to address things like that before you actually say, right, I need to add in run another 10 miles a week, bike another couple of hours a week, and so on. And especially when people are have our audience today by definition are cash rich and time poor, and as I did say to them, probably not as cash rich as they would like to be. Yeah.
Can I pick your race walking brains? Just as someone who's really only ever seen it in the Commonwealth Games, on the TV during the Olympics, the athletes that do they do just race walk training? Do they do any running as part of their training? I think that might be a stupid question, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So, well, they're aerobic animals, so we're just doing if you actually look at what they're doing in training, it'd be familiar to a lot of people in terms of principles of endurance. All the specific stuff is walking. But they'll do one or two kind of easy runs a week, kind of as recovery, things like that. So they haven't got to think about all the technical stuff. The race walkers like to be on a nice surface, so it's mostly on the on the road or the track. So there's no off-road stuff. So they can clear off and run on the grass and things like that. So they'll do a little bit.
And it always looks so painful doing it, like really quite excessive movements. Is it more? Are they more injury prone?
So they don't get hurt as much because the impact is a lot lower, but they're doing a lot of training and a high volume of training. So they get hurt in slightly different ways because there's still a lot of the way they put the foot on the floor with the leg straight and then really pull through their hips. So there's a lot of forces around all of those joints in those sort of pulling movements, call it torque, and also all of the the postural stuff. So they will rotate and move their hips a little bit to get a longer step, and then they counterbalance that by moving their shoulders as well. So you've got to have really control all of that, that kind of core stability stuff. From a run perspective, you probably want to keep that as a real stable platform. So in the walk, you actually want to move it a bit, but of course you need to control it, otherwise it's all flopping from one side to another. So they have to be really strong. So they get hurt a bit, but probably in a different way. And that doesn't mean it's right that they get hurt. So obviously you want to avoid. That's my job to. Where you load up training and try and manage all those things and make sure you have good nutrition and well conditioned and so on. If we're on top of all of that, then we get consistent training, then we get high level performances.
And someone like Tom Bosworth came sixth at the Rio Olympics. I think, am I right in saying his 20k race walking PB is around about 80 minutes? Is that right, wrong?
So his PB is it's actually just under 80, 1 hour 19. That was actually in Commonwealth Games. He got silver medal last year. So and he's done 18 and a half minutes for 5k.
So would he be able to run a 5k quicker than he can walk currently?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he'd run plenty quicker, but he wouldn't if he doesn't do enough specific run training. So if you measure if you went in the physiology lab, you'd have a big VO2 max. But if you do that race walking, if you then ran him on the treadmill, he'd still have a big VO2 max, but his economy would be rubbish. So he wouldn't. He'd have to put in. I don't know, 6-12 months of run training to explore what he would do in that. And it's the same coming the other way. A lot of our best race walkers were good runners currently, and so it takes them a while to get economical and effective. They come with a massive engine, and then turning them into a race walker, they will actually have then say. Their economy, their walking economy, will be poor, and we have to train that and develop that over time. So works whichever way you go. You've got the same little challenge.
I just thought I'd throw that in there at the end. Yeah. It's fascinating because this is a triathlon podcast, so we won't really know much about race walking, but we'll educate everyone.
The same thing. And the guys I coached, a guy called Cameron Corbishley, he raced the 50k. And a race in Slovakia the other week, which was actually the trials for the World Championships. The British team, we went second on the UK all-time list in 3 hours and 53 minutes for 50 kilometres. But there, in terms of doing long tri stuff, in that time he maintained 90 grams of carbohydrate intake an hour. So we've worked really hard on how we fuel up the athletes. So that's.
And what was it? Gels, carb drink, or
all of that. So yeah, we use some of like the hydrogel stuff that is quite new in marathon run. So the Morton stuff.
Yes.
So he used a lot of that, but early on, and that lets you take in more. Like you get more carbs put in terms of the volume of fluid intake through that. Plenty of gels, and then a bit later on some different flavoured, more sort of isotonic fluids. And the back end of the race, in the last hour or so, the gels have got caffeine in as well. But a lot of practice, a lot of us out training and weighing his drink bottles to work out how he could do that. It came out of a study where he was part of the study in Australia at the Institute of Sport called Supernova, where they started out investigating what happens if you give endurance athletes just like fat to eat and what happens to them. They get very good at metabolizing fat, but they go very slowly. And then sort of the studies have developed to now optimizing how you get in like a really big carb intake and training the gut. So all this, it's all endurance. So it's kind of universal and it transfers across to other disciplines. So
it's fascinating, honestly. Yeah. Well, Andy, it's been a great day. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for coming. We've really enjoyed ourselves, and people will vote with their feet. If the next time we put one on, if this lot come back, then job done.
And if anyone does want to find out more, what's the web address?
So it's nationalendurancecentre.co.uk.
Just to test you.
What a mouthful! Yeah.
Yeah, so as Dr. Andi Drake says there at the end, you can go onto the website and check out what their other plans are. If they've got any other, workshops that they're going to be doing. It was such a great day, learnt loads, came away sort of buzzing, and it's one of those days whereby you just meet lots of interesting people as well, and you get to share ideas. There was participation. We learnt loads. It was really, really good.
Sounds good. All right, so check it out over on the website. And hopefully, I'll tell you what we'll do, Hells. If any more of these come up and we get wind of them, we'll get them publicised on the podcast as well, and hopefully help loads of coaches and budding coaches out as well.
Yep, definitely. And Rob, the Dr. Andi Drake there, as we were talking about, he's a real expert in race walking. So obviously I did go slightly off-piste and away from triathlon at the very end of that interview, just because I find it fascinating. And I can't be the only one, because it's one of those sort of sports events that not that many people get into. So I hope everyone enjoyed the extra few questions there, all about race walking. But that was absolutely fascinating, and I cannot believe 50k race walking.
I know, it's insane, isn't it? Because on the TV it doesn't look as though they're going particularly fast, but then you go, okay, yeah, they're going faster than
most people can run,
than a good standard marathon runner or even half marathon runner. It's exactly incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. So I know that Dr. Andi Drake, they've got like a project too. I know they're really hoping for some medals at the Tokyo Olympics, because I think it was last time in Tokyo that Great Britain last got a medal in race walking at the Olympics. So good luck to Andy and all of the athletes at Leeds. They've definitely got an amazing setup up there. So there we go. Yeah, and thank you very much to everyone who was there, who let me, annoy them with a microphone as well.
Not annoy them, Hells. Charm them with your journalistic charms and get their message out there to the public. That's what you've got to think.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully so, hey. All right, well, all that neatly leads us forward into Coach's Couch. We've had a question on the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Facebook group this week from Deirdre McAuliffe.
Yeah, she says she's new to the open water swimming world and looking for some tips. She's going to be heading out to get a wetsuit and also needs some goggles appropriate for the open water.
Cool stuff, and I think this is a great question, representative of where a lot of people are going to be ahead of this season. If you're a newbie, you're going to be maybe getting your first wetsuit, and if you're not a newbie, it's probably time you get that wetsuit out of the cupboard and you realise it's fallen apart and it's a season past its best.
That hole that you didn't actually fix at the end of last year, it's still there.
I was with my training partner Andy the other day, and he got his suit out and he was like, yeah, it could be time to change this. It was all like, all the seams are coming apart, and you think, yeah, it's probably a season past its best, that one. So I thought what we'd do, we'd go through kit, goggles, wetsuit, things like that, and some tips for people if you're thinking about either buying your first one, or even if you're getting a suit and you're never really sure, what you're looking for. Because the first thing I came across was it's really hard to get good advice about wetsuits, because it's not an item that lends itself well to the modern world of buying stuff online. Yeah, that'll do. Buy size medium, great stuff.
No.
It's not, is it? I really recommend that you go to a shop where you can try one on.
Yeah.
And if possible, one of those expos where they've got an endless pool where you can try it, or trying one at an open water venue where you can actually try it and swim in it, is so important, because something that feels uncomfortable when it's dry can be super comfy in the water, and vice versa. So we've got some little tips here for you. First up, the goggles thing. If something feels like it fits your face, it probably does, and that's a good thing, and vice versa. And someone was asking in the group about, like, I have a real problem with my goggles steaming up. First up, a new pair of goggles really helps that. New goggles just don't seem to steam up for the first couple of months you've got them. But if they are having problems with that, a little bit of spit, put on your thumb, and then rubbed on the inside of the goggles works really well. You don't need anything more technical than that. That can really help keep the steam off. But again, if you get the chance to try them in open water or in any kind of water, I think that's really good. My other tip is, when you find a pair of goggles that work for you, buy 3 or 4 pairs in one go, because 50 quid up front feels like a lot of money, but actually, if you've then got a couple of spare pairs of goggles as well, I think that's a great thing. It's nothing worse than having your goggles snap and not being able to find the ones you like, is there?
Oh, no, nightmare.
No. All right, so the next thing that we want to look for when you're trying your wetsuit on is, it's going to be really tight, but it's not going to be too tight. So the way that a rough rule of thumb here is, you should only just be able to do the zip up on your own. And granted, when you're first trying a wetsuit on, that might be really hard to do anyway, because it's kind of hard to work out how to do the zip up. But if it goes on really easily, like maybe you've tried a surfing wetsuit on holiday, it's probably a little bit too big. And if there are any gaps around the lower back or under the arms, or it looks in any way like there's folds or bits of bagginess in the suit, then that's a real good sign it's not going to be good in the water, because it needs to fit you like a second skin. And then the next thing with this is, to try and get the suit to be comfortable, you actually need to flush a bit of water down it. So this is where the swimming in it part comes. Once you've got the suit on, and ideally, let's say you're trying it at an open water venue, go into the water, and although it's going to be a little bit unpleasant, get your fingers inside the neck, bend down and scoop some water in, and let the water flush down the suit, quite a lot of water, and then walk out of the water again and kind of squeeze yourself down, almost like you're using a squidgy to clean water off your windows. Rub that water all the way down the suit and down your legs, and it'll come out of the bottom of the legs of the suit. And obviously this doesn't work if you're still in the water at the time. And then what happens is, you get a little layer of water against your skin, between your skin and the suit, that makes it feel a bit more comfortable, but your body's then going to heat that little layer of water up, and that's how it's going to keep you warm. So if you just get in, and it's tempting to just get in and swim, especially when it's cold, and think, oh, my suit's nice and tight, it's not going to let any water in. That's not the best advice there, because water will leak in, and then the suits, have you experienced this, Hells, where it doesn't quite fit as well after 5 minutes of swimming or so as you thought that it did?
I don't think I've ever. No, I've probably had chafing after about 5 minutes and thought, oh damn,
Exactly.
I haven't done that up very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Well, that brings
or
us
something like that.
Yeah. That brings us to the next thing, doesn't it? Getting yourself a little tube of something that's designed for your wetsuit. So olive oil and baby oil are not ideal for this. Get yourself a proper little stick of Body Glide and get it around your neck, get it under your armpits, get it in the fold of where your armpits are, and then that'll potentially deal with any of those chafing issues. Because again, as Hells has just said, what can feel comfy in the car park can be really unpleasant 5 minutes in. It's not such a big deal if you're swimming laps and you can get out and adjust the suit.
It's a big deal if you're doing a 10k open water swim, Rob.
Oh yeah, is that what you experienced when you did your 10k?
Yeah, big time. Really, after probably about, I think 45 minutes of swimming, I could feel it rubbing, and I had another hour and a half or something in the water. Oh, my neck was so sore afterwards. Like, it looked like it had been burnt.
Yeah, well, that's a real good point. And there's that bit where the Velcro closes over the back of the suit, it's really worth making sure, isn't it? That, I mean, we've all done it, Hells. It's like wetsuit neck burn. You'll see people on the beach on triathlon training holidays. If the rough bit of the Velcro is anywhere near touching your neck, it'll irritate you every time you go to breathe, and it can just rub you raw. So make sure that bit of Velcro is well down away from where your neck is, and get loads and loads of body glide over there, almost to the point where you feel like it's too much and there's great big blobs of it there. That'll just help that point where, as you move your head to breathe, if it's rubbing against the suit at all, it can be really, really unpleasant. So that's all the stuff around fitting of the suits. There's loads of stuff there to be getting on with, but the key point is get somewhere where you can try one on, and ideally get somewhere where you can try one on in the water. And this is a point that I'm really keen to push. Sort of online retailers are really, really good at offering cheap prices, but this is a place a bit like running shoes where you can really support the shops that are struggling by buying a suit from a shop that's helped you get one that you've tried on. Because if all these shops and facilities go away, we're all knackered trying to buy a wetsuit over the internet and sending half a dozen back that don't fit properly. So if you find one that fits you and you get good advice, my advice is to spend that little bit of money there in the retailer, in the real world, and help out the people who've still got these shops going, because there ain't many of them left, are there?
No, and I do think, Rob, that is such sound advice, because I've bought, probably 2 wetsuits in my time. First one, it was absolutely online. Second one, I bought a couple online, and you have to, I sent them back because they weren't right.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got one which I thought, okay, this is right. But there is so much risk involved, because if you nick it, you can't, what do you do? You can't send it back. So make sure that if you are trying them on as well, that you use like a carrier bag or something just to stop you from, and the gloves as well, quite often if you're trying them on.
Shops will often give you that, won't they? They'll send you a pair of really thin cotton gloves, and that's a really good point. If you have bought something online, make sure you put those on, because it's so easy to accidentally rip a triathlon wetsuit. So be super careful getting them on. The thing Hel's mentioned about plastic bags there, you might sometimes see people putting plastic bags over the hands or over the feet as they get into the suit, and it's to stop your nails nicking the neoprene as you put it on, isn't it? So it's another great bit of tip there as well, Hel's.
Rob, should we do the actual, should we do some open water sighting and things like that in next week's Coach's Couch?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's come back to that later on, because we've had loads of tips there, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
So we'll do a bit more open water swimming technique then next week.
Nice. Remind me, Hells.
Yeah, okay.
Just before we finish, we've got a handful of spaces have just opened up on Team OA for members that have left. So if you're interested in some coaching for this year, I think we've got 4 or 5 slots just opened up for members whose membership has ended, and they've either moved away from triathlon or moved on. So what we thought we'd do is we've got an offer on for you guys where you can try your first month inside Team Oxygenaddict for £5. So massive saving of nearly £200 on what you would pay to join the team usually. So £5 to try your first month. It's basically risk-free. Come in, get your training plan for your event, hang out with the people that we coach in the online Facebook group, get any advice that you need, and it's almost like it's risk-free for you. And you're free to cancel at any time, but if you want to check that out, come over to teamoxygenaddict.com. All right, Hells, let's have a little chat about some news, shall we? What have we seen going on in the world?
Yeah, so big news, I think, this morning, Rob, that I've seen, is that Flora Duffy is going to be out of Bermuda. So World Triathlon Series Bermuda, obviously for her, it's hugely important. It's her home race. She's, helped design the whole course. But she is still injured. She says, I'm not yet at full health. She says it's a bitter decision. And actually, Rob, she does say, I'm withdrawing from WTS Bermuda and all races thereafter, basically until she is back better. And if you read her full statement, it's really sad, because she says about getting different advice. It's her left foot, basically. She's got a tear in her left foot. But she said, and this is what really, I don't know, I thought, oh man. She said, I did not have the confidence to stop training and simply rest.
Oh, wow.
But I think
it's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah, but that is so...
It affects everybody,
so many people can relate to that.
Yeah, it affects everybody from the very, very top of elite sport all the way through to people who have just taken up sport. that desire to keep doing something when your body's in pain. It's a really difficult line to get the balance right, isn't it?
Yeah. So we wish Flora the best, and obviously, she will be wanting to be on that start line at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. So better to actually to make the decision now, even though it's such a hard one, and hopefully be able to come back, because her swimming and her biking's and probably stronger than it's ever been. But yeah, it's just that sodding foot.
Yeah. Well, she's doing the right thing by taking that break now, isn't she, for sure?
Yeah.
Trying to get ready for Tokyo.
So yeah. And then, so the same weekend, Rob, that Bermuda is on, which is like the 27th of April, is also 70.3 Marbella, and Ali Brownlee says that is going to be his first race of the season. So yeah, he's going to be going for that. I did hear in an interview recently that his target for this year is the 70.3 World Championships, but then at the weekend I also heard that don't know if he's really made up his mind yet between doing 70.3 and Ironman or still tinkering with Olympic stuff, and so I think that's where he is at. But yep, 70.3 Marbella is going to be his first race of the 2019 season.
It's a super stacked field as well. I was looking, I think there are 70 male pros on the start list for that. So we've got names like he's racing Andreas Dreitz, Ivan Rana, Andreas Rehler. So there's some big names to go up against. Pedro Gomez is there as well. Over on the ladies' side, we've got Laura Phillip racing, Tina Deckers. So there's going to be some good racing there. Susie Richards is on the start list as well. Nice. I know she's been down in Spain training for 5 or 6 weeks, I think. So she'll be in great shape for that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good. All right, so our news section was brought to us by sponsors Tribe Natural Sports Nutrition. Remember, you guys can get a trial pack of 6 delicious energy bars or protein shakes. You get to choose what you get in your pack there. It's just £1, including postage and packaging, if you use the code Tribe Oxygenaddict, and you need to go to wearetribe.co/Oxygenaddict. Massive fan of this company. All their snacks are really delicious, vegan. The founders, Tom, Rob and Guy, started it because they were really frustrated with what they considered to be synthetic sports nutrition, and they wanted something that was natural, gluten-free, dairy-free and vegan. And we've been trying them, Hells, and we love it, don't we? There's some really good tasting stuff.
Yes, I'm going to be getting back on my bike, Rob, in May. This is my plan, and I am going to be munching my way through my bars in May.
Love it. Well, I had the old cocoa and sea salt protein recovery shake out this week. I tried to get a long run in. I was ahead of doing this mountain marathon in a couple of weeks. I've got to be honest, Hals, I don't know whether it's going to happen for me. I'm considering.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I've been having real problems with my right foot.
Oh,
and it's all smashed up and I don't really know what's going on with it. So very much like Flora, I'm in that kind of, I really want to go and do this event because it looks really cool. And some days I'm fine and other days my foot's just in bits. So went out and got a bit of a long run in and it was okay.
Yeah.
And had I thought I'll have to try protein recovery shake afterwards and see if that's the magic fix that fixes me. So we can't assuage magic properties to the Tribe protein shake, but I have to say it was really delicious, and I'm a big fan of the old cocoa and sea salt. Have you ever put salt in like a chocolatey milkshake before? Have you ever tried that?
I have been putting salted peanut butter in a bit of a recovery shake that I've made.
Oh, it's so good.
Berries and banana and berries, banana, a bit of almond milk, a bit of yogurt, and then a bit of peanut butter, but it's salted. Bit of sea salt in that peanut butter just adds a little something, doesn't it?
It does. Well, the sea salt aspect of it just makes it, I don't know, someone said to me years ago, sea salt in a chocolatey milkshake drink tastes delicious, and these guys have got it nailed with one that's already in a packet and ready to mix for me. I was like, get in.
So Aldi, Rob, do a nice little chocolate bar with sea salt, dark chocolate and sea salt. Love it.
Good stuff. So get yourselves over to wearetribe.co/Oxygenaddict and use the code TribeOxygenaddict to get yourself a 6-pack through the post. You can choose what you get. I highly recommend getting one of these delicious protein recovery shakes with cocoa and sea salt in there because it's super, super yum. All right, Hells, I think that just about brings us to the end of our show for this week, doesn't it?
I think it does. I'm going to go to the gym.
Nice. Good stuff. I'm on school holidays, so I'm going to go play with the little dude today. We're going to go for a mountain bike ride, I think.
Oh, brilliant. Nice weather too.
It is indeed.
Enjoy that.
All right. Yeah, good stuff. So thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, go and check out our sponsors, precisionhydration.com, wearetribe.co and foodcell.co.uk. And we'll be back with you with more news, advice, and hopefully inspirational interviews for your listening pleasure next week. Until then, I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. Take care, everyone. Have a great training and racing week, and we'll speak to you again soon. Cheers, everyone. See ya.